Alright, so let's look at some React intermediate training this morning. Now, I don't want to go too fast because I know some people are still working through the beginner React training, so I don't want to just bombard them with lots of topics. So let's take our time and make sure we fully understand it, yeah? And for those that are ready, then you can just help out those that haven't looked at these things yet. We're going to start with state, just because it's the first training on the platform, and it's probably the simplest set of questions once you get your head around how to compose state inside of class-based components. And then I thought we'd maybe look at composing components, which is a tricky one, but it really tests our understanding of React and how to put different components together. So we'll see how the time goes, but that's my plan. Open to ideas as well. Alright, let's play this one again. So as I said, playing with state inside of React. And prior to February of this year, 2019, then we couldn't use state in functional components. So all of these questions are going to test our ability to use state inside of a class-based component. So there are a few little guidelines there. Create state as part of the constructor, so that will be our initial state. Don't forget to invoke the super method so that we have access to the React component and its methods, such as render, and then we can display the component onto the screen using render. And I have adapted, or I'm going to adapt, the workshop we did yesterday as well, so we can actually see what these components look like on the screen, because sometimes that's a bit lacking from the training. We can't actually see what it looks like, so if we are unable to interpret what different components do, then we might struggle to see the end result in our mind's eye. So that's the test case, and there's only one of them, so we can cheat a little bit, but we're not going to cheat. What is the name of our component based on that test that we need to write? What's the name of our component? Hello state, So whenever we see this shallow method and then a tag with some capitalized text in what's it, sort of a greeny turquoisey blue color here, that is the component that we're rendering. And then once we have rendered that component using the shallow method, we can attach various expectations to it, and they are the tests essentially that our component needs to pass. So the first test says we expect the wrapper, which is our hello state component, dot state, in other words it has a state object, dot message. Inside of that state object there should be a property called message, and we expect it to equal the string hello state with an exclamation mark. And then the line below it, we expect the wrapper dot text, so we just expect there to be some text output from that component, and we expect that to equal the same string, hello state. That is how I would translate that test into everyday language, yeah? Does that make sense? You'll see these tests written over and over again, dot state, dot text, so it makes, well, it's a good practice now to try and understand them as much as possible rather than thinking, what does that mean? So if you have any doubts, please ask your questions now. No? Alright, let's write the code then. So the first thing, we need to write our state, and that needs to be in the constructor, as it says in the hints. So classes, if we want to give them some initial values or set the initial state of that object, then we need to create a constructor. So constructor is now a keyword in JavaScript that lets us do this inside of a class. And a class is just a way of creating a new object in JavaScript. That's all it is. And that object can store certain values or methods and functions inside of it. Okay, so constructor. So it said don't forget to call super. So that means we need to invoke super. Now super calls the constructor of the parent component, and the parent class or the parent component in this case is React.component. I can tell that because of this keyword extends. If we have one object or one class and we extend it from another object, and that means the bit on the right hand side of the extend keyword is the parent class. So inside of there, I don't know whether we can look at the source code for that. Let's have a look. Oh no, I'm not in here, but maybe in VS Code when we pop over there we can have a look, and hopefully that will show us that React.component has various methods and properties attached to it, and that means that we can use them inside of hello state as well. It's a way of keeping your code dry. If you've written it once in your code, then you just extend a new object to have all that same code functionality. I know it's a bit abstract at the moment until you see some examples, but who's training? Wesley, evening class. Cool. Then it said put your state object inside of the constructor. So do I just do state equals an object, something like that? People are shaking their heads at me. Yeah. So if we're creating a state object that belongs to hello state, which is what we want in this case, then we have to use the keyword this. So this will just say that the state object that we're defining belongs to hello state. This dot state equals, and from the test it said we needed a message property with a value of hello state. So I'm going to do the same thing. Value of hello state. And that's my constructor set up. Don't forget your semicolons at the end. If we had any methods, they would go next. But we don't. So therefore we can just get on to rendering what we want our component to return. So again, render is a method that we invoke, and inside of that we can return whatever we want to return. In this case, it was just a bit of text, so I could put that text inside of a paragraph tag. I'll let you do more on the next one. I'm just doing the demo really for this one. And then, so we don't need that, as I said. Then we need to make sure we have the text inside of there that also says hello state. Now I said because we've only got one test we could cheat and type hello state, but what makes more sense? Where can we reference? Yeah, we've already defined the message, so we just want to render that message. So to access something that's stored in the state, we can't just type message, unfortunately, in a class-based component. That would be really nice, but we can't do that. What we have to do is type this dot state dot message, because that is where it is stored. Don't forget your semicolon at the end of the return. So that format, whenever you're creating state inside of a class-based component, you'll use that format again and again and again. You'll have a constructor which calls super, you have a this.setState object, various things will go inside here depending on what you want to use it for, and then to access it inside of the render, you'll do this.state the name of your property. Any questions on that bit? Super. So super calls the constructor, not of hello state, but of the parent class. And the parent class in this case is React.component. So inside of React.component, there's going to be another constructor which has other code inside of it. Yeah? And that means that hello state has access both to its constructor and also the constructor of React.component, and it needs that for various reasons, because we're trying to create a very similar object to any generic React.component, but just with some extra data inside that we want for this question. Anything else?
Can you write console.log and inside hello state what is gonna show us?
You want me to write a console.log somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I would like to see what it's gonna be inside
So you want to log what?
hello state.
Hello state. What as a string? Like that. Well, that's just going to log hello state to the console.
No, I mean the class.
Oh, the class.
How this looks like.
Ah.
So can you just show me?
We can try. Bear in mind this is the platform, so it might not display correctly, but we'll see. Alright. Let me do it without the log to begin with, just so that we get the correct answer and it doesn't confuse people if we get an error, and then I'll try the log for you. Alright?
Thanks.
Anything else, guys? Alright, let's test. We get confetti and no elegance, so that was a good answer. Now let's see if we can actually look at what a component prints to the console. So we get that, excuse me, which doesn't really mean much, right? Key null, ref null, props, owner. There are no props, otherwise we might see some props inside of there. So we'll try it on a question where there are some props passed in.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I expected maybe a little bit more information than that, but as I say, class is just a way to create an object. So you can see that it's created an object there with certain properties. And the missing semicolon obviously comes from that line. Alright. Oh, on the platform, yeah, I mean, we did disable it for a while so that people didn't use it too much, but yeah, we've brought it back now because on some of the more complicated React questions it can be really useful just to work out what's going on. Yeah. Alright, moving on. So I'll let you do a bit more this time. You've seen one example. So this time we want an average score component. And we want it to maintain two state properties, first score and second score. And then our output inside of the render should be the rounded average score. So these are our tests. So what two properties and values do we need to store in the state based on that test?
First score and second score.
Yep, so we need first score to have a value of 78 in the state initially, and then second score to have a value of 81 in the state. And then what do we want our component to output? But literally in the test, specifically, what does it say? The average score is colon space and then the score, yeah? We couldn't just have it print out 80 and it would work. It must say exactly that string. So we make sure we return that string. Alright then, so based on that, who can start me off? What would I do first? Constructor, love it, yeah. Constructor. What goes inside my constructor? Super, yeah. If you don't know why for now, again, let's just do it and it will become clearer later, hopefully. We're trying to do a workshop on classes as well, which I don't think we've got scheduled. So classes and dates, yeah. This dot state, yeah. What do we need to put inside this dot state this time? So it's definitely an object. Not my message, because this time we're looking for state dot first score and state dot second score. So we need first score, and that was 79, was it? 78. Okay, and then how do I put my second score? Do I need to do it again, this dot state? What do I do? Just a comma, excellent. And I can put second score. So this is just a plain old JavaScript object, yeah? Colon, and then put the value, which is 81, right? 81, 78 and 81, yeah? Okay. Oh, I've spelled constructor wrong, which is why it's not in blue. Constructor, yeah. Alright. Then, what do we need next? A render. Nice. Every class-based component needs a render if we want to output something. What do we need next? Return, love it. What do we want to return? Specifically that string. So let's give it some sort of tag. P tag again? Yeah, sure, we can do a P tag again. And inside we want to put the average, if I can spell again, score is colon space. Average. And what's the average score? How are we going to calculate that? Bit of JavaScript, yeah. And you're saying this dot state dot first score. Oops. Hey? The line is too long? Yeah. So this dot state dot first score plus this dot state dot what? Second score. Then what? Yep, so we need to make sure we put them in brackets, otherwise it's going to divide by 2 first. Remember your maths lessons, BODMAS, BIDMAS, whatever they called it back then. Hey?
Do you see it?
What am I saying?
No.
Oh.
The result is going to be fraction. So.
Oh, yep, so the result is going to be a fraction. Yep.
Math.c.
So it would be nice to do math dot rounds, I think will work in this case, yeah. And then we need another set of brackets around there. So you can do it like that, and that should work. No, something wrong. No, it's complaining about my space here. There's no space. You see? So the average score is 80. No, it's just one test in this case. Yeah. Yeah, I said it was missing a space, right? So I can't show you the raw result very easily, but no, I can't show you it at all. It's annoying. There we go. I can't move off it.
Where does it say on the
Raw results is top right once you've evaluated it, and then in the raw results there's a bit that says actual in the middle in the tests, and it says the average score is colon 80 without a space, and then expected the average score is colon space 80. So based on that I know I've missed a space, so that's why I've added it to this first line here. And
can you use the math.ceil?
still the same thing, so we could make sure that we've got the space there. It's just one of these little HTML quirks. And that's better. And then missing space before opening brace. Yeah, fair enough. Same again. Missing semicolon. And then I think we're good. Yep.
So instead of doing that,
we could do this in a function.
And the function is inside the render, or should we?
So if you want to create a method in the class, it needs to go between the constructor and the render. So we could call this average score, and that needs to return. Did someone say something online or not? No. And that needs to return that to math.round. Yeah, it's not the neatest, but it's okay, right? Close it. And then we could say the average score is what?
You need like arguments in average score.
Do I need a what?
Function, the arguments in the average score. So you need score 1 and score 2.
No, I shouldn't need to pass in any parameters because we've got this dot state dot first score and this dot state dot second score. So how about this? We haven't finished down here yet. Yeah, so two things. First, this dot average score because it's a method that belongs to the class. And secondly, we need to invoke the function to actually return something. I've got a return inside the average score method, it's there. Yeah. And I still missed the semicolon, which goes after the return statement. So yeah, that's a bit neater. I guess you can see exactly what your render is returning. And in general, yes, try and keep your render as neat as possible and write extra functions if you need to tidy it up.
Yeah, it's
Do we need a keyword function before?
No, that won't work. So if you try and put function here, you can't write a function declaration like that inside of a class. It just doesn't make sense syntax wise. So you just put the name of the method and then write it like that, really. Yeah. So essentially it's the same, but you don't put function in front of the name.
it looks like objecting principle.
Yeah, so it's trying to mimic the syntax of a lot of well-known object-orientated programming languages, yeah? It's just syntax sugar though, really. Under the hood it just creates JavaScript objects that inherit via prototypal inheritance. It's not full object-orientated programming, yeah. Classes weren't that popular, and I think that's probably why React has now shifted to using functional components.
Are we going to do JavaScript classes?
It wasn't scheduled, but we've done it in the past. So there's definitely a workshop on it on YouTube. But if you want, we can try and squeeze one of those in as well. It's
Are
just
they just becoming unpopular?
they were pretty unpopular when they were first released. Yeah, they were released in 2015, and a lot. They were designed to try and get more people who code in object-oriented programming languages into JavaScript. So if you code in Java, try and get more people using JavaScript. Yeah, but they didn't go down too well
Yeah.
in the JavaScript community. Yeah, alright. Any questions on that one? So remember, if you need to create a function or a class method, then don't put the function keyword in front and stick it between the constructor and the render. You could also, I always forget whether you need the const or you have to drop that as well, but yeah, so I think we have to drop it, right?
It has to be
Can we define something in there? test that, it should say the score is hello and then the number. That's the idea. Yeah, the score is hello 80, right? So you can also just define variables like that inside of classes. It doesn't have to be a method. And there's no limit to how many you put in, or how many you need, but if it's getting too big, you might want to create another function or create another class. Sorry, I think I might lose my voice at some point today, but I hope it won't come too soon. Another average score one. What's the difference? You got a prop, did someone say? Yes, got a prop. What's the prop called? New score. Yeah, you can see that prop because it's inside the tag and it's got this sort of syntax. If something is inside your component tag, has a name and equals, then that's what it is. It's a prop. So we've got to combine using props and state in this question, and then output the average score. I wish I'd copy and pasted the last component now, but anyway, you can tell me what to write again. Constructor. What goes in my constructor? Call super. Then this dot state object. What goes in it this time? First score and second score, absolutely. So I can do first score, I'll put the values in a second. Second score. I might even now want to do third score. There's various ways to do it, but this is the way I'm going to choose. So the first score was 78 and 81, same as before. So we've got 78, 81. Suppose we should tidy this up a little bit. And my third score, what's the value of my third score? No, I'm not going to set it to 0. It's coming in as a prop, so I want the prop to be the initial value. Yeah, this dot props dot. Remember what the prop was called? New score. Yeah, so now we have access to that prop, and we've stored it in a state object with the key of third score. So we have access to all of our scores. Alright, my constructor closes there, so I'll drop down. Space.
Do you have to write props
Between brackets, you mean between curly braces? Huh? Oh, do you need to pass props in here? It's a good practice to pass props in there, yeah. So you often see that. So then let's calculate our average score method again. And this time our average score method is going to be what? Same sort of thing, math.round. And we have this dot state dot first score. Sorry, put the plus in the wrong place. Right, this dot state dot first score plus second, third, missed the plus again. Yep. Let's first, I think, put all of those in brackets. Divided by 3. Yeah, what might be a better way to do it? Let's say we didn't actually know how many scores we had.
This dot state dot length.
This dot state dot length. Okay, and then close it off, right?
Yes.
No, I'm saying if we didn't know, yeah? It's that key word I said, if.
Could we use
Try and make your functions as robust as as possible. Sorry, we didn't do it in the last question just because I want to keep it simple. But now let's take it a step further. Yeah, so
could we use reduce?
could we use reduce? Absolutely. Yeah, we could use reduce, but we haven't got an array at the moment, so we'd have to convert our state values into an array of values, and then we could use reduce. As,
Or we have to do that before dot length anyway.
well, we have to do that before dot length anyway. So this is the problem. Yeah, I've got an issue with the dot length at the moment, so we'll see what happens.
Arithmetic.
Yeah, let's finish off the component, and then we're probably going to get an error, and we'll fix it. Yeah, but the logic, let's get all the logic down first. So that looks similar to what we had before, apart from the list.state.length. And then the last bit, render, return, returning what? Same thing. Yeah. The average score is, where was the colon there, right? And then we do this dot average score. We probably need a template literal if we're going to do it that way, or we probably want to put it in a div, right? Or some sort of p tag again. I don't need to do any of that. The average score is this dot average score. What else do I need? I definitely need a closing tag. What else do I need? Invoke the function. Yeah, otherwise it's not going to return anything apart from the function declaration itself. Right, let's see what happens. Okay, so the error we got, the average score is not a number. Yeah, so it's not able to calculate this. So rather than this dot state dot length, we could do something like object dot values. This dot state, because it's just an object, dot length. That would work, as far as I'm aware. Yeah. So we extracted the values out of the state. So we had an array of 78, 81, and I think that was 63, was it? 61. Could we use map? How would you use map? You want to turn an object into an array, and you're trying to use map to do that.
No, you don't want access certain values and objects to use map.
No. No. What does map take as an input, guys? An array, and it outputs an array of the same length. Yeah? So we can't send an object into map. We can't do object.map. It has to be array.map. Yeah? So object.values returns an array, which is why I use that, to get an array of just the values, and then say how many values there are. That's all that's done. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it, I'm just saying it works in this case, yeah? Yep.
So I understand why you were using the dot length, because in case we didn't know how many blocks there were, but wouldn't you you have to do some sort of like object, something with props to make it so for every prop that gets passed, it creates like a new item in the constructor object. Do you know what I mean? Is there? So like you're passing props down, but we know that there's only one prop, and you've made it a third score. I'm not sure. Maybe you said this while I was in the toilet.
I don't think I have covered it. No.
So just for example, if we didn't know how many props, wouldn't that be the circumstance in which you would need to use this .length? And then if that was the case, is there a way that you can do some kind of mapping or whatever function that for every prop that gets passed through, it's going to create an automatic item within the this.state object? Does that question make sense? I mean, it's maybe a bit complicated.
Sort of. So
Because I don't understand what situation there would be that you wouldn't know the length unless you weren't sure how many props were being passed through. And unless there's like just loads of things within the this.state object, then you can't just count them all.
yeah, I mean, what if your props was passed as an array from a different component, and you couldn't be bothered to count every single thing in that array?
So you can pass an array as a prop.
Yeah, you can pass as you want.
Okay, so
It's just a value.
then you could do like a mapping thing.
Yeah. So new score could be equal to an array of 7,622 numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In which case, I'm not going to go third score.
Yeah. So you would create some kind of a function.
Yeah, you then create a function to
Would
map
you do that
over
within
your
the
prop.
constructor- Within the constructor function body.
Probably, yeah, because
Okay.
props are meant to be immutable, so that whatever comes in stays as that. So usually, if you want to use that and change it, then we could put that in a state variable.
So
If
do
we don't want to
every
change it.
time we get a props get passed into a class component, do we have to pass them through the constructor in order to kind of use them?
Not necessarily, no.
So
But-
could you answer this? I mean, you don't have to do it, but would it be possible to do it then without making the third score item in that object? Could you have just done in the average score method where you could use this sort of statement third score? Could you just write this dot props dot new score? Like, would that also work?
Should do.
Could I get rid of the word commas?
Don't need to.
Word.
Doesn't like it. Average score. Yeah, because my link's now wrong, isn't it? So, because we directly used it. Why didn't I just write 3 to begin with? Hey, it'd have been so much simpler. I was trying.
Okay, so you can do that.
I was trying to show you how to make it dynamic, and it just opened up a can of worms. But hey, yeah, but you can do that, absolutely, yeah. But you often see people just store their props in state if they expect to use that value later on.
Okay.
So you don't have to, absolutely not. If you know that you're just doing one thing with it and it never changes, then that's fine.
What would you say is best practice?
I'd say you need to know what your function does, right?
Depends.
If it's taking scores and it's just calculating the average of those scores, if it's getting a score from your previous game or whatever, and then this monitors the actual game and updates that score, then it's got to go in the state. Because if you put it directly there and that value changes, well, it's going to calculate the score wrong, yeah?
Oh, okay.
So if you expect that new score to ever change, to go up from 61 to, I don't know, 72, let's say they win lots of games after these other two people, then yeah, it's got to go in the state.
Okay. So probably need to get into practice of passing it through the constructor.
Yeah, you often see that, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Alright. Why is it complaining now? Alright, good, move on. How are we doing for time? We do one more?
It's me on.
So we got an option. We can do this one on the calculator, or we can do the final one for a different calculator. What's the difference? Hey, you want to do the final one? Yeah. Does doing the fourth one set us up to do the final one and then just change it? Because they're very similar. We've probably got time for both of them because I think they're essentially the same, apart from one tricky little detail, I imagine. Right, let's look at the test. What have we got to do? Have we got any props?
Yeah.
What are they called?
Operation.
Cool. What type of data is operation?
String.
No, it's in. Hold on. So, operation is set to the value of scenario.operation, and scenario.operation is what? Oh, you're right, it is a string. Sorry. Yeah, it is a string. It's either add or subtract or multiply, depending on the scenario. So what do we need to store in state?
A and B.
A and B. And what do we need to return? One of three outputs, yes. Depending on what the operation is, we either need to return the result is and then a number inside of a string. If it's subtract, we return the result is the correct subtracted number. If it's multiply, we haven't written the code for that yet, so we just say this operation is not supported yet. Alright. So start as we always start. Constructor. You think I'll be able to spell this by the number of times that I've written it, but there we go. Constructor. Next. Super. Next. This. Yeah, dot state. What goes in the state this time? A, yeah, comma, B. Just stick their values in. Seven and 4 as numbers. What next? Operation. Oh, sorry, inside it. Yeah, I'll stick it in a second. I thought it was already in there. Operation is equal to. Nice. This dot props.
Isn't that getting passed into the state?
It is getting passed into the state, which I'm going to move it into in a second. This dot props to operation. Yeah. Cool. Alright then, next.
Maybe you want to make a method.
Method. Operation output. Is that alright? Or do you want an add, a subtract, and a multiply method? What do you want?
You need like a, just one.
Just one? So I'll call it operation output. Yeah.
Kind of situation.
Do you want to use if else?
If everybody else is happy with that.
Yeah. So if what?
If brackets.
I like the pedantic approach.
This dot state dot operation triple equal sign.
Nice.
String open bit. Quotations.
Add.
Add.
Yeah.
Space. Curly bracket. Next line. Let's see. Sorry.
return what? Return this.
I don't know, what does it say on the other side? Just which return?
We've just got to add the numbers, yeah? So this dot state dot A plus this dot state dot B. Okay. Yeah, else if, right? Else if. Hold on, I forgot what I pasted. Yeah, else if subtract return minus else, so I probably don't need an else, return, yeah, I'm going to copy that one. Okay. Do we want that to return the result is blah 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 though directly? Yeah. So return as a template literal. Do you want to do it that way or what? The result is template literal. It's getting a bit big, but try and squeeze it. And then the other one should be I guess I haven't closed my template somewhere. Is that why it's complaining? Close the template. Open the template. Close the template. There we go. And I've missed the return off that one. And that's killed my line limit. And it's A minus B, yeah. So, I guess I'm going to have to do that. So I don't lose my elegance. Okay. Now, yeah, we're still not outputting anything after all of this work. So now we render, we return, and we return, let's just put in a p tag again, why not? What goes inside my p tag? JavaScript curlies and operation, yeah, good, this. And then make sure we invoke it. Now hopefully we've done that okay. Have I missed any semicolons? Because I'm pretty terrible with those things. One there, one there. Oh, one there. Got that one. Alright. Anything else? In the props? Oh, putting props in here. Let's see if it works without it.
Oh yeah.
Let's be curious and see whether it works without it. Oh, something's wrong. Cannot read property operation of undefined. Yeah, so props is undefined. So we do need to put it in there. I think only if we're using it in the constructor. If we use it down here, then we would have access to it. It will get automatically passed to the rest of our component, but not to our constructor.
Right, really stupid question. But do you have to call it props? I know we do because it's best practice.
No, we don't have to call it props.
Okay.
Info. Test. Still work. No, it doesn't still work. But hold on, that's for a different reason. Cannot read property operation of undefined. This dot info dot operation. Ooh. We definitely don't have to call it props in a...
So what does this info mean?
It's just whatever I've named the objects, whatever I've named the props object. Because it's probably definitely called props in there, because we have no control over that inside of the parent component. Will that work like that? Oh, it's a bit confusing now. No. Props is not defined. Yeah, let's stick to props, especially for class-based components, but you don't have to in functional-based ones.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
Oh, the elegance was good. Right, let me copy and paste this, and we've got 10 minutes to the final one. Alright. So we've now got an A, a B, a C, and a total. So in the state we need how many things?
It looks the same like.
Doesn't quite look the same. We've got an A, we've got a B, and we've got a total. So let's have an A and B and a total. Are they passed in as props? We've got C passed in as props. So I'm going to hard code A and B, and then I'm going to pass C in as a prop. So I can just do let A equals, I've forgotten the values already, 7 wasn't it? Let B equals 4, and let C equals this dot props dot C. So now I've got 3 variables inside of my constructor, initialized and given a value, 7, 4, and whatever it is, depending on the question. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's -2. And then the total will be, so I still need A and B in state, that hasn't changed. The total will be what? How do I calculate the total from this information?
We have to add.
Yeah, A plus B plus C. Do they need a this?
Waiting for the C. This.
Do they belong to the whole class, or do they just belong to the constructor? That's the question, really. So we don't need any of this operation stuff, because we're just getting the total, which is quite nice. And we are returning total. How do I write total? State.total. I think that's all we needed. Nope, done something wrong.
Is that on an object method?
Look, expected 16 to equal the total is 16. So I think we calculated it correctly. We just didn't write the correct message. The total is, boom. All good. Yeah, so the hard bit was recognizing that the values that are coming in, we don't stick straight away in the state. Otherwise you end up with something like 7 and 4 in here, and you think the total equals what? This dot state dot A and this dot state dot B, and you can't do that because you haven't yet created the state object that you put your values inside. So that's what a lot of people try and do. They try and just initialize everything inside of the state. You don't have to do that. You can initialize anything you want in a constructor. I could have another function in here, as many variables as I wanted. So yeah, if you've got data that you need to use in a calculation for something inside of the state, I could have also done the total outside of here. Let total equals A plus B plus C. Yeah? That might have been a nicer way to do it. And then I can use my shorthand version of the object, and I can just go A, comma B, comma total.
So then what's the point of having this state if you define everything outside of it?
To pass the test. To pass the test and to make it available to the rest of the components. Without this, how do I access the total?
It's gonna fail.
No. No. Without this. Okay. Oh, no, not skip, not skip. Go back. It's still there. Whew. Test. And we get a message.
Because of the
Oops, you didn't return anything. So it's just failed, yeah? Because these are contained within the constructor. And unless we do something special, we don't have access to the variables that we've declared inside of the constructor. So therefore we use state to make these values available to the whole of our component. And A just means A equals A, B means B equals B, and total means total equals total. Yeah, it's just shorthand for...
So before, when we were talking about passing like a really long array as a prop into this component,
Do I want to go here? Yeah,
create
okay.
some kind of mapping method that will, whatever.
You could do it up here.
That would be before the business state.
Yes.
I
Yes.
see. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah?
So you said we use state to make our values available to.
So state is local to the component in which you define it. So these values for A, B, and C are only available inside of the calc. And they're in state because we expect them to change. Otherwise we'd store them somewhere else. Yeah?
Can you call it this dot something else? Or does it have to use the word state?
So usually, yes, you could again call it anything you want because it's just an object. However, I think that will affect how various other methods work, like the set state method.
Oh, I see.
Yeah?
It's the this, isn't it? Like that's like the special
Yeah.
JavaScript word.
Yeah.
That makes it.
You said we can create functions inside a constructor.
Yep. It might let you do it this way. Let's see. Function. Probably shouldn't do a capital. John's FN equals. Sorry, not equals. Like that. And let's say return 4. There's a reason for that. And then down here, I'm gonna say B is John's FN invoked, and that should still be 4, right, for the number of B. Let's see if it works. Oh, John's with a plural FN. Oops, didn't return anything. It's total. A colon B, commas. Line 13. That ends the constructor. That ends the component. Yeah, thank you. Got an extra one. What happened there?
We need this for this.
Hmm?
The total is we need to do this for.
Oh, we've changed that now, yeah. That was from the previous one. So this dot state dot total. I believe it will work. Yeah, nice. So you could define a function up there if you wanted. Or you can also do the other way, right? Const John's FN equals an arrow function. your choice. Yeah, either way. Yeah. Good. And that's a wrap, because that's an hour, so that's plenty. Any questions? So hopefully the state training at least makes a bit more sense, and you've learned how to read those tests a little bit. If you come across some other words that don't make sense, just raise them, and we'll do maybe just a sort of mini 10 minutes on what a few of those words mean. Of course, if you want to look them up yourself, you can do, so you will find most of them in either the JEST documentation, blinded, which is that one, or you've got enzyme as well. So these are two testing frameworks, so I probably need more information than that. Enzyme.js. I think I showed you these before, but if you check the API documentation there, you'll see a lot of the things we're using, yeah? Shallow. You've got things like .exists, you'll see that quite a bit. You've got the find selector, so this find is nothing to do with JavaScript find, this is finding a certain element in the page. So you've got the documentation for that, tells you what it does. What after we have text, is that part of, yep, it's a part of enzyme again, yeah, text to equal. So that's where a lot of the testing framework's coming from, yeah, from the enzyme documentation. So worth a check there. Airbnb.io/enzyme. And that really is it. Thank you very much, unless you've got any questions.